As I indicated before, this is really a condensed version. This is something that in the turfgrass insects we actually have about 5 or 6 lectures on turfgrass insects. The next group that we'll talk about are billbugs. Now, what we're talking about is that the bill means snout. And so these are, and they're not really bugs at all. They're beetles with a snout. And as you can see here, there's quite a few different species of billbugs. What we find here in Ohio in the cool grass or cool season grass zone is the bluegrass billbug. If you get into the warm season and transition zones, it's primarily the hunting billbug. What I also find is interesting is that even though we believe that the hunting billbug is a native of North America, in our commerce, we have transported the hunting billbug all around the world. I work with a couple of superintendents in Spain that have hunting billbug problems. The #1 pest problem in Japan is the hunting billbug. While they have Japanese beetle and grubs, it's the hunting billbug that causes most of the problem. A few years ago when I was in Saudi Arabia, on the little turf that they have that they keep green with regular irrigation, hunting billbug was there, and so it's a critter that's been transported pretty well wherever we've gone to grow some turf. We've taken it with us. The billbugs themselves to me are kind of distinctive in that if you look at them, you can see that the pronotum and the head with the bill is almost the same distance as the wing covers. And these are all, well, maybe 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 an inch in length. They're not all that large. And all the species can be very distinctively identified by the pits and furrows and the markings that are on the surface of the body. We don't need to spend any time on that today. But they are pretty easily identified. The bad part is the larvae all look the same, and we'll talk about the larvae here in just a minute. When it comes to the billbug damage, this is what it looks like. This is in a home lawn, and if I told you I took this picture in the last week of June, what would you think's going on with this lawn? What does it look like? Just looks like it's going into summer drought stress or into summer dormancy. And this is one of the big issues with billbugs, is that they usually take out the crown in early to mid-June. If you get a droughty situation, that can kill the entire grass plant and all the tillers that it's tried to set. And so a single billbug larva can take out a patch, especially of Kentucky bluegrass or some of the perennial ryegrasses that may be 3 to 6 inches in diameter from one billbug larva. The billbugs themselves are quite mobile. They're always walking around and very easily seen walking around on cart paths, on sidewalks, parking lots, and so forth. Now, here is a bluegrass billbug adult, but what I want you to see is the larva. Where you're going to make a mistake in this larva, if you'll notice, the larva looks like a white grub, but it's a little tiny white grub. However, if you look real closely, it's missing something. Legs, absolutely. There are no legs on this. So if you find little grub-like insects in your turf, meaning brown head capsule and a white or cream-colored body that's sort of sac-shaped, but there's no legs on it, you've got a weevil larva. And in this particular case, it's a billbug. Now, in the springtime, the bluegrass billbug female, which is overwintered, seeks out the seed head stems. She likes the thickest stems in order to lay her eggs. She will take her beak, chew a hole into the stem, turn around, stick a little jelly bean shaped egg into that stem. The larva will burrow down through the stem, and as it's burrowing down through the stem, it leaves this telltale sawdust-like frass material. So this stuff that looks like real fine sawdust here is actually the fecal material of this larva, and typically by the early part or the middle part of June it reaches the crown and it will feed and eat the crown. What we tell you grass plants without a crown is dead. And now that's really kind of an oversimplification, because what's also happening at this time, especially in our cool season turf grasses, they're setting out extra tillers by that time. And what we find is that if you've got irrigation or normal to above normal rainfall, those tillers will usually establish a root, and so only the parent plant, the parent crown, will be killed. And so you'll just see what looks like seed head stems dying out in the turf grass. You won't see that more massive damage that I showed before. However, it gets hot and dry, and usually the first or second week of June, watch out. That's when the entire plant can collapse, and a single billbug can cause very extensive damage. I can detect billbugs even later in the season by doing what I call the tug test. I can do this anywhere in late June through July. I've even done it in October. People, especially in the lawn care, say, you know, Dr. Shetlar, we had this long drought this summer, and it appears that our turf didn't come back. Can you come take a look at it? And I'll go out there, and I said, I'm warning you, if I do a tug test over here and I pull on those stems, and the stems break off, and they've got this sawdust-like material in here, you had billbug damage. And yes, billbug damage plus drought means dead turf. I've got another videotape here showing you some of those. Here's the bluegrass weevil adult. Here's what some extensive damage can look like. And again, when I was taking that picture, the homeowner said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm taking a picture of your dead lawn. They said, oh, I was told it just went dormant. Now here's the hole that the female makes into the stem. If you slice that open, here's the little egg that was stuck into that stem. Now here's my technician, Jenny, and she's coming out. This is actually out at our turfgrass facility at our Billbug Ranch. We have some original improved Kentucky bluegrass cultivars that have very thick stems, and the billbugs really like it. And what she's doing is looking for some of those dead stems. When she starts to find them, she does the tug test. And there you can see now she's found some stems that broke off, and when you inspect them very closely, they're filled with that sawdust-like material. There's no disease, there's nothing natural that will cause that. Only billbugs will do that. Now, often in our research, I'm also interested in finding out how many larvae are there, or are the larvae still active? And if they're still active, that also means that I could control them with some insecticides. We like to use the golf course cup changer. Golf course cup changer being 4 1/4 inches in diameter. If you do the math on it, is almost exactly 1/10 a square foot. And so, depending on the number of larvae, now we pull out a plug, split it one way, and in this particular case, you can see she pulled this plug where there was the stems. There's one billbug larva. That's a pretty good size one. That's probably about a last inch or about ready to pupate. We then turn the plug 90 degrees and split it again. And yeah, there's another smaller larva right in there. So there were 2 larvae in that plug. So how many billbug larvae per square foot would that be? 20. Yeah. So and typically in a drought situation, now this is irrigated, you're not going to see much damage here, but in a drought situation, anywhere from 15 to 20 billbug larvae per square foot can cause significant turf dieback and death. The next group that we'll talk about are the chinchbugs. As I always joke, these are true bugs. Now notice the word. When I showed you billbug, remember that was all one word? That means that they're not true bugs at all, but beetles. The true bugs, however, we separate them. So chinchbugs, these are true bugs, and true bugs have sucking mouth parts. You're all familiar with a stink bug. A stink bug is another true bug. Now when it comes to the chinchbugs, there are again several species, but by far it is the hairy chinchbug, which is most common in cool season turf grass, and the southern chinchbug that is most common in the warm season turf grasses, meaning Bermuda grass and St. Augustine grass. The bugs themselves are very tiny, and here's some turf that had chinchbugs in them. I pulled the turf aside, and you can see here's a little nymph here, here's an adult running, here's another adult in there. The chinchbugs themselves as adults are black, and they have black and white wings, so they will appear black and white in color. If you can find some turf that's in the sun, the adults will often come up and sun themselves in the afternoon sun. And here you can see a couple of these are the hairy chinchbugs up on the surface. Also notice that there's two wing forms here. There's the normal wings, these can fly, but there's also some short wing forms. Those couldn't fly. They've got to stay around in that particular area. Again, this is what the damage looked like, and if I told you that I took this picture in the third week of June, what would you think's going on? Looks like summer drought stress again. And so I can't emphasize enough that indeed here in Ohio we often get summer drought stress in those last couple of weeks in June, but don't make the assumption that that's what's really going on. To me, it really means that the turf needs to be looked at very carefully. In the case of the billbugs, I would pull on those stems to see if there is that frass-filled stems in there. When it comes to chinchbugs, what I would have to do is actually get down on my hands and knees and take a look at them. I'll show you a video of that here in a minute. Now, these are also quite different in their life cycle. The insects that we've talked about up to this time have what we call a complete life cycle. They've got egg stages, larval stages, pupal stages, and adult stages, and those different stages can occur at different times of the year. When it comes to the chinchbugs, whenever they're active, I'm going to find eggs, nymphs, and adults in the same location, feeding on the same material, and pretty much fairly easy to take care of with a single application of an insecticide. Now here's Dan, one of my other technicians. Now I find it interesting, this particular lawn received a fungicide treatment by a lawn care company because they thought that this was being damaged by fungi. And so we arrived, pull the turf aside, and so what we're looking for, we're trying to get down to the thatch level. Now if you'll notice, you didn't see much, but if you wait a few minutes, you see them now? The chinchbugs freeze when you first open it up and they see the sunlight. They go, oh God, what's going on here? But if you keep that canopy open, they go, well, I guess maybe we better get the hell out of here. And so they'll start running around pretty quickly and be very easy to find. So how hard was that to see? Not hard at all. My crew, it usually takes us no more than about a minute or two to determine whether a lawn has chinchbugs or not in it, just by getting down on our hands and knees, separating the turf canopy and looking for those little bugs running around. Here's some adults on the surface. Now when it comes to here in Ohio, where we've got the hairy chinchbug, we know that the hairy chinchbug overwinters as an adult. Becomes active typically in May when the soil surface temperature is getting up to about 65 to 70 degrees, starts laying eggs, and then we have a whole bunch of nymphs feeding in the turf in June, early July. Then we get a new population of adults, lay a lot of eggs, and then we can get a second generation in late August, early September. And so those are the two times that you can see the turf beginning to turn, to me it's a very distinctive yellowing of the turf first. And if you get over into the turf and look down at it, what you'll often see are these purple stems sticking up. And what we now know is that the purple stems are stems that have just been fed on. The vascular system has been clogged, and what happens is the chlorophyll dies first, but the xanthophylls are still there, and so you will get this purpling or reddening of that color before that leaf tissue completely senesces and dies down and turns yellow.